you know what? I'm getting to a point where I was going to do one event, okay? Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell. I gave Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell the opportunity because Dana White doesn't pay him enough. Why in the hell is Chuck Liddell still fighting at this age? Because Dana White doesn't pay him enough. That's why. So I have to come in and give him his biggest payday that he's ever made.
Well, just commit. Oh, there Ortiz with the right hand. Liddell's down.
Now let's get into De La Hoya. And the only reason that I'm telling you this is because he is a lying, two-faced, hypocritical sack of shit. And I hate him so much that I love to prove that he's a lying, hypocritical, two-faced piece of shit. All right, so let's start. I guess we'll start with his, when he started an MMA event. Okay, he did his first MMA event. And just for the record, you guys could figure this out too and do this. This isn't some deep investigational journalism here that you couldn't have done. You guys can all look this up yourself. And so all the former UFC fighters who were on his card made more in their last bout than they did for his event. Most of them made more in multiple or all of their UFC bouts, right? So 17 of the 22 fighters got less than the starting compensation in the UFC. The guys who fought on his MMA card. Now, where I'm going with this is this asshole, every time he opens his mouth, acts like, number one, oh, you're not paying your fighters. You know, why are the fighters not being paid? And he acts like when he put on an event, like he pays more than we do or something. Yeah, you pay fucking Canelo a shitload of money, whom you couldn't even hold on to. You couldn't even keep. He fucking left you too, right? How about this? I have 650 fighters under contract. He had fucking one that mattered. He couldn't keep them.
Earlier in the week, Oscar De La Hoya was here and kind of personally attacked you and your business, Dana, and also essentially saying you don't take care of your fighters. Right. One of the examples he brought up was Chuck Liddell, and I know that one especially irked you.
You know, it's like I say, it's one thing to lie amongst your friends or whatever, but to go on ESPN and lie. I talked to Chuck Liddell last night. Chuck Liddell told me it's absolutely not true that he's making more money over there than he made in the UFC, which, I mean, I think everybody who has any common sense knows. Oscar De La Hoya is lying about how successful the show was. And listen, it happens. This is the guy's first show. You know, he knows nothing about the sport. Doesn't even try to know anything about the sport. Anytime Oscar De La Hoya wants to sit down with me face to face and go over numbers on events, I'll even use the numbers off the Toronto show. Not like I'm going to come at him with Conor and Khabib. We can do that any day of the week. The difference is I'm not going to come on ESPN and lie.
And then you got Oscar, this fucking idiot again in the car that night. Come with us and make more money than you've ever made in your life. We heard that before. Chuck Liddell's here tonight. Grab him, ask him if he made more money than he ever made in his whole life when he went with Oscar De La Hoya. You know what I mean? But you guys keep asking me about these idiots. You guys know they're a fucking joke, but you keep asking me about them when you know they're a joke. You know this is bullshit. You know they're all full of shit, and you know what I mean? But this is what you want. You want me to do this, and I tried not to do it, and I can't help myself. But I don't care what they're doing. Fucking go away. Go do whatever you're doing. Stop texting me, stop calling me, and stop fucking asking the media to ask me things, okay? Beat it. Get lost.
And then his event, $580,000 was the payout to the fighters. The people on the undercard made $95,000 compared to the UFC's $1.2 million. I think. So, listen, Stephen A., the guy's a moron. Okay? And any day he wants to go head-to-head with numbers with me and talk about the business or even talk about the business of mixed martial arts, how much money is he going to reinvest into the sport? We've reinvested millions and millions of dollars to build this sport globally. How much has he reinvested into the sport of boxing? The answer is zero. In boxing, every fight is like a going out of business sale. These guys are trying to grab as much money as they can and get out of Dodge.
Does he still have Ryan Garcia? Yeah? All right, good for him. That'll be another 2 weeks before he fucking loses that kid, okay? 12 of the 22 fighters got compensated less than what we pay kids on the Contender Series, okay, on that MMA event. So the last time, remember the big narrative for that one was Chuck and Tito are going to make more than they ever made? Yeah. The last time Chuck Liddell made less than $250,000 in the UFC was in August of 2004 at UFC 49, okay? The last time Tito Ortiz made less than $250,000 in the UFC was February of 2005 for UFC 251. What do those have in common? They were both, and just for the record, that was when we were still $40 million in the hole. We weren't making money. We were 40 million upside down. That was the last time. After those dates came The Ultimate Fighter and everything started to change and grow, right? So think about this. Chuck Liddell, his last fight in the UFC, right? Chuck lost 5 of his last 6, right? And he still made, on his last fight in the UFC, 10 times more than what Oscar paid him. Okay? Tito Ortiz won 1 of his last 9 fights. Tito Ortiz's last 9 fights, he won 1. He made 12 times in the UFC for his last fight what Oscar paid him. So it's not like I'm giving you numbers, oh, Tito was the champion and this is what he made and he got a piece of pay-per-view. Chuck was the champion, he got a piece of pay-per-view. This was the last fight on their contracts after Tito won 1 of his last 9 and Chuck was 5 of his last 6 had lost, okay? So there's another fucking lie from Oscar De La Hoya.
Listen, I can do anything better than Oscar De La Hoya. Believe me. And if you're a young fighter and you're up and coming, all you have to do is look at this guy, talk to this guy. There's plenty of places to go than to be with Oscar De La Hoya.
But see, that's where I'm going. I got it. He's an idiot. He's a moron.
Yep.
This is what you said.
And he's a liar. Let's say that too. He's a liar.
Okay. You throw it all out there. But again, do you accept any? Listen, do you, Dana White, accept any culpability in this friction that presently exists because you went as far as to call a guy a cokehead, Dana? That's not you, Dana. You don't do that.
You know what? If you want to come battle with me, this is what you're going to get. I've been this way since the day, I've promoted some of Oscar's fights, and he's done the same for us for UFC fights. Then he comes out and tells people, do not watch this event. It will kill boxing. You shouldn't do this and that. Who does that?
That seems to be the key.
Who does that?
That seems to be what lit the fire under you, that he was worried about your business instead of just minding his own, minding his own business.
The guy had Canelo versus Triple G coming up. A great fight.
A fight that you loved.
With 2 great fighters. Right. Promote your fight. Don't worry about what we're doing over here.
He's very concerned about Alexander Volkanovski for some fucking reason. Like he needs Oscar De La Hoya's help, right? Think about this. Oh, wait, let me get into this first. So what you've been handed, I could have brought 30 of these, okay? I brought 1 because it's June 9th, 2021, okay? This was a fight that just happened in June. It's a Golden Boy Promotions fight that this dickhead put on, okay? There were 9 fights, 18 fighters. The total purses paid for every fight was $36,500. Total. The average purse per fighter is $2,000 on a Golden Boy De La Hoya card.
And then finally, last one, I'm a good friend of yours, Oscar De La Hoya, has announced he's coming out of retirement to box again. I just wondered if you had any...
Cocaine isn't cheap. It's expensive. Got to make money.
Thanks, Dana.
Yep. Let me start again. He's concerned about Alexander Volkanovski, okay? Before we pay $1 in fucking purse money, right? Volkanovski got paid more to wear his UFC Venom kit than Oscar De La Hoya paid the entire fucking fight card. Do you understand what I'm saying? To walk out with the Venom fight kit on, he was paid more than Oscar paid the entire fucking fight card.
This guy is not a fan of facts, and we all know this. First of all, let me start by saying this. I paid Chuck Liddell more money not to fight than Oscar De La Hoya paid him to fight. All right, so the numbers that we paid him, from 2011 to 2017, right up to when we sold the company, Chuck Liddell was making, $400,000 a year from the UFC. He made $250,000 to fight for Oscar De La Hoya. Then, the things that he was saying, he was on this show and on First Take and saying things like, we had guys, the first Chuck fight, Chuck only made $200,000 when he fought Tito Ortiz, and it did 1.5 million buys. The first fight, UFC 47, April 2nd, 2004, Chuck and Tito did 106,000 buys. Didn't do 1.5 million buys. Lie, not a fact.
I could go on, but I think we all get the fucking point. He's a liar, and what his interest in talking about the UFC is, and this is the thing. Every time somebody comes out and says, oh, you don't pay your fighters, you don't pay your fighters, I could come out and do this every fuck. I'm not. I don't give a shit. You don't like the way we pay our fighters? Too fucking bad. Go start another MMA organization and you go fucking figure out how to do it. And you can pay them $10 million a fight, $30 million a fight, whatever you want to do. We run a business. We've been very good at it. Not only do we run the business, we continue to grow the sport and take everybody along with us,
Then De La Hoya is claiming he pays everybody all this money. The total payout for athlete compensation for his show was $580,000. That's what all the fighters made for his show, right? Chuck and Tito took $450,000 of that money, all right? So if you exclude the main and co-main event for total athlete compensation for De La Hoya, he paid the rest of the card $95,000, right? The UFC, the same thing, we pay $1.2 million to everybody else on the rest of the card, excluding the main and co-main event. There's a guy named T-Bow who fought on his show. His last fight for us, he made 50 and 50. He made 10,000 and 10,000 fighting for Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya is not a fan of facts. And the thing about this guy is, it's one thing if you want to sit around with your friends and lie. Don't go on ESPN and lie.
Any questions about this sack of shit and his lying?
Just last one. Do you ever think about maybe suing him for defamation?
Listen, I'm not suing anybody. I always say this, we all talk shit about each other, They don't like me, I don't like them, we all don't like each other. It is what it is. This is a very mean business. We say mean things about each other. You got people out there to fucking lie. If I lied, guys, the way that this fucking scumbag lies and these other guys, if I did this shit, and there's so much more on De La Hoya, he owes people money that fought for him that he hasn't paid. The list goes on and on. If I ever imagine if I still owed a fighter money from fucking a year ago. You would crucify me on a daily basis. This guy, nobody gives a shit. And the only reason, I just despise him so bad that every time he fucking lies, I point it out. And still, people don't give a shit,
The guy's a liar. He's lying about the amount of buys he did. So I personally talked to Chuck Liddell myself. Yesterday.
Yes.
I said, I'm just warning you, Chuck. I'm going out with numbers, your numbers and what you made. And
what did he say?
He said, I knew this was coming. I knew you were going to do this. I can't believe this guy thinks he's going to say this and you're not going to come back. And I said, did you make more with his event than you made with the UFC? He said, no, that's a lie.
And I don't have numbers in front of me to verify what you're saying, and in no way am I questioning you. What I am going to ask you is, he's telling me, Oscar De La Hoya, that fighters that were fought for you are calling him now and asking to fight for him. Why is that?
The guy's a liar.
Take a look at a lot of choices this guy's made in his life. He gets away with a lot of shit.
I think just losing Canelo is probably an indictment on his ability as a promoter.
What's that?
Losing Canelo is probably an indictment on his ability as a promoter.
I said it to him yesterday, and I'll say it to him again. He accomplished a lot of great things in boxing. Outside of the ring, the guy is an absolute fucking loser. He's a liar and many other things. And I can't tell you, maybe you can tell, how much I despise this human being, but that's the only reason that I'm even fucking doing this. This is it. It's the last time. I'm not going out again. I mean, last time he did it, I was on Sports Center and I laid out how he lied and facts, and then here we are again, you know? Yet this guy keeps opening his big fucking yap.
Oscar De La Hoya is a liar. He has no facts. We can, listen, if Oscar wants to, we can get somebody from the pay-per-view industry or however he wants to do it. We can sit down with numbers. You know, the reality is this guy doesn't know anything about his business. He just did an interview with a kid at TSN in Canada the other day. He didn't know what anybody was paid. He showed up to his own event at the press conference and didn't know any of the fighters' names. And what's even crazier is he didn't even write them down. Put them on a piece of paper, you idiot. Right? He didn't even write it down on a piece of paper. He says, I don't know any of these guys back here, but yeah, I'm sure the fights are going to be great and whatever.
He's amazing. Some of the things that this guy's done in his fucking personal life, if that was me, I'd be living on some fucking island somewhere and nobody would ever see me again. I'd disappear. Poof. What the fuck happened to him? We know what happened to him. He got the hell out of town before he bumps into somebody.
And the guy is an absolute liar. And listen, we can sit down and we can do this on TV. We can go head to head. We can also take drug tests if he wants to do that too. I'm ready to go. Let's go, Oscar. You idiot.
It's an interesting shot. Marcus Spears is over there reacting. Is there a general feeling, do you believe there is a general feeling that the fighters at UFC are underpaid? He's trying to make that
there's
point.
A general
is there that feeling?
Everybody feels like they're underpaid.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're always going to, in the almost 20-year history of the UFC, every fighter we've ever dealt with has been paid on time, and they've actually been paid more money than what they were contracted to make. They were paid more money. These are facts that I can prove. De La Hoya can't prove anything.
Obviously, you and De La Hoya are best friends. Are you going to send him a thank you note for pushing that back and getting your stuff in the MGM Grand? Say, hey.
He didn't do any of that. You think that idiot did that? He did none of that.
Him and DAZN.
Yeah. It was much smarter people that surround him that started to do that stuff. It wasn't that moron. He's an asshole. I mean, how much more can I prove myself that this guy and a complete just fuck up?
Go for it.
I have. I mean, was I right or was I wrong in the Tito Ortiz Chuck Liddell fight, right? And then after the fight's over, he comes out and lies and says, you know, how they did huge numbers on digital. Okay, you're a liar. Then right up to this fight, everything that he's done. I used to help this guy. I used to promote his fights. I used to go out on social media and say, hey, the fight's tonight. I'm watching the fight or whatever. And then we do the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and he tells people not to watch. Who does that? Don't watch. This is a disgrace to boxing. But then says he wants to fight Conor McGregor after. I mean, I could just go on for days about this guy.
Please do.
He's a bad guy. He's a snake. He's a snake. He's a liar. And he's just an all-around bad guy. And he's really f***ing weird, too. Just to top it off.
First of all,
yes.
Just so you know, Oscar De La Hoya didn't even build Golden Boy. Okay, Richard Schaefer did. And Richard Schaefer got out of Dodge because this guy's an idiot. And you want to, like I said, to go on ESPN and just lie is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Chuck Liddell absolutely positively told me that he did not make more money there than he made with the UFC. Chuck's last 3 fights with us, right? He lost his last 3 fights by knockout, right? And he was paid an average of $2.7 million for those 3 fights, even while losing. Then I brought him on and paid him not to fight. More money than Oscar De La Hoya paid him to fight. These are facts.
You know, I respect De La Hoya a lot.
Oh, come on. What do you respect about De La Hoya? He's an asshole.
As a fighter, he always got in the ring with guys.
As a fighter, he was a good guy. As a human being,
he's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
De La Hoya's let's start there, okay? Number one. Number two, I didn't block George St. Pierre from fighting. He's under contract with me. That's like saying, that's like the Raiders saying, oh, they blocked Tom Brady to play quarterback for us. No, he's under contract with me, you moron. Okay? And when De La Hoya offered him the fight, we offered him a fight for 3 times more money.
Right. Everybody tries to give this guy credit and respect and all this shit. He's a liar. He's a fucking moron.
Right.
And leading up to that fight, he's talking about he takes care of his fighters. There were guys on that card that made 1,000 and 1,000. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I don't pay guys 1,000 and 1,000. I don't know if we ever paid guys 1,000 and 1,000 since we owned the company. Even when we were $33 fucking million in the hole.
I touched a little nerve here.
No, you didn't. I'm not mad at all.
Don't you fucking hit me, Dana.
We were cool at one point. I'd go to his fights. He'd put on fights, and I would literally use my social media to talk about the fights. Hey, you watching Oscar's fight tonight? So all the things that I had done for this guy, you know, when he was having fights and shit. Then we do Mayweather versus McGregor, and this guy goes on like a PR tour telling people not to watch the fight. It was a disgrace to boxing. But he would fight Conor McGregor, right? It's not a disgrace to the sport if you fight him. It was just, I was like, first of all, I'm involved in this fight. Why would you tell people not to watch somebody's fight? What do you even care, right? Like, what do you, I just laid out how he pays his fighters and what he does. But you're concerned about my fighter comp, right? The problem with Oscar De La Hoya is Golden Boy is fucking tanking, in my opinion. And, you know, so I don't know what the fucking, you know, the guy, I wish I could tell you, you know, he's an asshole. I mean, other than that, I don't know. And he's a liar and a lot of other things. It's not just, and that's not just my opinion. This is the second time that I've laid out facts for you. He's talking about paying fighters. He did a card in June where the entire card, total purchase was $36,500.
The person I want to talk about is when you see Conor McGregor versus Oscar De La Hoya and that little chirping, we know how much you love Oscar. Look at the look on your face. No, so there were certain questions when people were, I was like, hey, what are some good questions that the people would want to know from Dana? And they were like, well, you know, this one might get a little funny. I was like, guys, don't set me up. Don't set me up with this one.
First of all, Oscar De La Hoya is like 50 years old, okay? He's like 48 or 49 years old.
Yeah.
And what that means to me, you know that me and Oscar used to be cool.
Yeah.
The beef with me and Oscar is that I used to promote his fights and say, hey, Oscar's got a good fight on tonight, you know, da-da-da. We do McGregor versus Mayweather, and he tells people not to watch it. It's a disgrace to boxing. But wait a minute. So Mayweather versus McGregor is a disgrace to boxing, but you versus McGregor isn't? What it tells me is when almost 50-year-old Oscar De La Hoya wants to fight Conor McGregor, it means he's broke.
It drives me crazy when people say, oh, but listen, what do you respect about De La Hoya? Listen, the guy fought fucking 20 years ago. Yeah. Ever since then, you know, the guy's snorting fucking coke and running around doing all this shit. What's to respect about De La Hoya now? You know what I mean? And he lies and you know, and his company is falling apart by the minute.
Golden Boy.
Right? Yeah, he's just, the guy's completely full of shit.